Hey everybody, Jay here. I was the lead designer of Dropsy and Hypnospace Outlaw, and I thought I would talk a little bit about the development of the next game, which is Dream Settler. And Dream Settler is a sequel to Hypnospace Outlaw. In particular, I want to talk about it being a sequel and kind of what that means and how it informs development. Hypnospace is an operating system and internet simulator set in an alternate reality 1999 where you access the internet while you sleep using like a headband. This is already kind of a confusing premise. What I just said, if I told someone that just in casual conversation, their eyes would glaze over. It's just too much information. And even like seeing our trailers, that has the same effect on people. Most of the time people say something like, ooh, trippy or something. It's really not that trippy. It's supposed to be quite grounded, like a period piece or something for an alternate history, but a period piece nonetheless, I guess. It errs on the side of silly in terms of like products and fictional bands and brands and stuff. But anyway, I digress. For the sequel, for Dream Settler, I was thinking, if we make another game in this genre, in this world, with a similar premise where you're browsing a fictional internet on a fictional operating system in your sleep, but also on top of that, stack a bunch of references and callbacks and just lore stuff that you would need to have played the first game to understand, I think we would have a big marketing problem because it would just be completely impenetrable. Hypnospace for many, many people is already just impenetrable on its own. I'm invested in the lore of the Hypnospace world. I think it's very interesting, and there are a lot of fun directions we can take it. But I think that this needs to be a game where Dream Settler, where if you see the Steam page or if you see it around the internet, you could have a chance of understanding just what the heck's going on with it. So a pillar early on that me and the team decided was to design this as if it were the first game in the series. No foreknowledge necessary to enjoy this game. Anything that we pull forward from the first game, like characters or like corporate entities, we would give you all of the knowledge necessary in this game. Now, maybe all of that knowledge would come from a different perspective. Maybe this time you're learning of a character from their mom, who you never met in the first game, or you're learning about a company from a group of detractors, from a group who hates that company, where formerly you only met people who love the company, or from the employees of the company. You know, there are many ways in which we can sort of re-educate players on what these things are and reintroduce them to the world. And it's really an opportunity to just like turn the prism a little bit and just show you other angles of all this stuff, which I think is really interesting and fun. And I think that also allows people who are playing Dream Settler as their first game in this universe to then go back to Hypnospace and then get a bunch of other revelations from the original angle, which to them will be new when they discover it. So we can leave holes in both games that can be filled by the other games. Everything necessary for enjoyment and for comprehension will be in the game. Light spoilers, I guess. You can kind of infer this based on the genre almost, but at the end of Hypnospace, some bad things happen. This kind of technology is unstable. It hasn't been researched well enough. Of course, investors are dumping money into this because it's so revolutionary. Computing while you're sleeping. Like that means you get 6 or 8 extra hours to like beam ads into people's brains while normally they would just be sleeping. You wouldn't be able to reach them. That's valuable. You could have people work during that time possibly. Like that is extremely valuable. Like companies would be all over that. After the events of the last game, which were, you know, a little grisly, some bad things happened. I've seen people speculate like, well, why would sleep time be allowed to return? Wouldn't they just shut it down? And I just don't think that's how things work in the real world, actually. Like when bad things happen at companies, even as a result of their technology, if there's enough economic interest in it, it'll just persist. That's just how that works, sadly. Now, sleep time might not ever be as popular with the consumer. I think people might be a little freaked out by it. and it's kind of hard to control in the lore. Like you're sleeping, you're trying to move a cursor with your brain, you're trying to type with your brain. It doesn't always kind of work out. It might be a little bit difficult to use. Browsing might be fun, listening to tunes might be enjoyable, or watching things and reading works, but the input part of it, I imagine, is a little arduous, and that's kind of how I wanted to write it. And you wake up not feeling well rested because you're not really getting your sleep. You're kind of using your brain while sleeping. We will have returning characters and companies and stuff, though the stars of this game will be the new characters and the new companies, mostly. Almost nothing from the first game will be central to this game. They won't be just thrown in there, but they won't be central to the game. I wanted to make new stuff. I'm also not going to highlight when a character appears again with like, here's the guy that you like. They'll just stand alone. It'll be a continuation of their story. Maybe they've changed, or maybe they've turned a new leaf or something, and maybe you wouldn't even recognize them at first because they seem so different, but that's how people are in real life. I think I felt compelled to make a video on this topic because I saw, mostly early on, people speculate that this may not be a sequel, but rather a follow-up, not set in the same universe. And I think we've made it pretty clear to the community, but yeah, it's a sequel, shared world, some returning characters where it makes sense, but we will not be marketing it that way. If I had my way, just no one would know it's a sequel, and people would simply be pleasantly surprised if they played Hypnospace to discover that it's a sequel. I want someone who sees our Steam page for the first time to not feel that they have to do a bunch of work to be able to enjoy this game. I want this to be structured so they can be like, oh, an interesting operating system and internet simulator. That looks fun, I'll play it. And I don't want people to see this and be like, oh, it's a sequel to that game that I heard about many years ago that's on my backlog. I better play that first. Like, that would be bad marketing, but it's also not how I want to structure these things. They can support each other. And I think if we're clever about it, it could be pretty cool to have played this game first and then realize there's a game set in the past that reveals information that we left out of the sequel. Yeah, those are my thoughts on making Dream Settler and making a sequel. By the way, tomorrow the 29th, I'm going to be streaming some page building using the Dream Settler Page Genie. Is what we're calling the page builder here. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Gotta go. Bye.